as you get older, burning yourself out is actually quite a silly state to be in. It's not the smartest state to get into because you no longer enjoy your job. You no longer want to be working on those things that you should be working on, that you'd usually love working on, and you lose creativity. And I would say like imagination, creativity are so important when it comes to doing business. Imagination, creativity go hand in hand with being resourceful. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the 2 times in my life when I was making the most money I was ever making, and the sort of attitude and approach and mood I was in these periods of my life. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it can help certain people that perhaps feel stuck, perhaps feel like they've built a cage for themselves and are wondering why they can't sort of break resistance being that cage in order to grow themselves, in order to make more money, in order to be more open to opportunities, and in order to see themselves as capable of making more money, seeing themselves as capable of being more, of doing more, and of achieving more. The first time I was making a lot of money was when I was 23 years old. By the time I was 23, I had already been working 5 years doing TV commercials, print ads, and various other sort of commercial jobs on TV and just for the advertising industry. Then I had been a group fitness instructor for 2 years at the time, and I'd been a personal trainer for 4 years. And this was a point in time when I was most open to sort of new opportunities. I was more open to meeting new people. I was most open to listening to new opportunities. I was more open to going to events. I was more open to making friends. And this is a period in my life where I was just open to everything. I felt like, it excited me that I could meet someone new. It excited me that I could go to fun events. It excited me that I could meet celebrities. If there was any celebrity that I wanted to meet. This was at the time I was living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And it just really excited me, all these things. And I was always like wanting to go to these things to achieve, or at least, I don't know, like network with someone, build some rapport with someone, create a new contact. It wasn't so much intentionally to do that, but it excited me to do that. And I was a lot more open to doing this stuff. So being more open is definitely something I remember looking back on, and it's something I really was like, wow, this was a period of my life when there were so many things just thrown at me, so many opportunities, so many jobs, so many new people I was meeting. And it was certainly a period of time where I felt like I was certainly earning the most at the time that I'd ever earned at this point in my life. I was meeting more people than I ever met. I was just doing more things. I was doing more things, and I attribute all of those things to just being open to those opportunities that they came. The next thing, and I think one of the biggest reasons as to why I felt so excited to go to those events, to meet new people, is because I had this really positive, high energy all the time. This allowed me to network with a variety of different people at things like social events, at things like, whenever I go out to like a bar or a club. You can meet the bar owner, you can meet the club owner, you could meet anyone who is just sort of in your vicinity. If you can just approach them with a positive, high energy, it's very, very easy to build rapport. Positive, high energy doesn't necessarily mean like coming off feeling like you need to be someone, because I certainly didn't feel like I was anyone at that point. Nor do I feel like that now, but it was like approaching them with humility, approaching them with very positive, genuine energy, and ultimately, giving it to them. That helped me build a lot of rapport when I was a kid, and it actually helped me a lot with things that I would have to do later in life. 2 years later, I founded a kombucha business with my very close friend, and from meeting all those contacts that I had met, from not only just from 23 onwards, but from like 18 to 23, all those contacts made such a big difference, because when you become a business owner, one thing you need to be is very resourceful. And being resourceful means you have to learn how to not use people or contacts for free, but learn how to benefit not only yourself, but them as well. And in doing so, you sort of reciprocate the energy between them, between your contacts and yourself. And it can go as far as just asking a simple one of your friends for the number of a business that they contacted a few weeks ago that they were telling you about before, and that is going to help you with your business. Or I don't know, anything that's regarding sort of like real estate, anything regarding legal things, you can always seek help with the contacts that you have. And this is why it's so important, because your network is your net worth. So if you can know more people and if you can have this very positive, genuine energy with them, it's very likely that they will help you. It's very likely, if you have a relationship built with them, that's not just built on you give me something, I give you something, but that's built on like a genuine friendship, genuine like good positive energy, they will certainly help you with anything, as long as it doesn't necessarily have to cost them too much, which asking someone for a phone number really doesn't really cost anyone anything. At this point, when I was making the most amount of money I'd ever been making, I had a really, really high endurance for work. I used to tell myself when I was younger, I used to say, I'm young, I can endure this. I can do anything. And I used to say this mantra to myself again and again. I can take anything. I can work 12 hours straight. I can stay up late. I can continue working. Even in moments when I don't want to do it, I can still just keep going. And I always had this endurance mentality of like, how much can I endure before I start burning out? And I wouldn't sort of recommend pushing yourself to the point of burnout every single time. But having that endurance mindset, having that mentality to just go even when you don't feel like doing it, doing stuff that's tedious, that you're like, this doesn't benefit me at all, but you know you have to do it, just get it done. Because it's very, very important. And it's not so much, you're not really doing it for, I would say, you know, you might feel like it's pointless, but it's not, because you're doing it for you. You're adding in, it's like that small bit of cement underneath the bricks. You know, it doesn't really matter if you miss like, you know, I guess like one like square inch of cement. It doesn't really matter. But if you miss that a few times, you destroy the building, or at least the building isn't built strong enough. And so you can't go in with that mentality of like, I'm going to leave the small things out because I just want to do the big things. It's like those small things matter, and just do them in those moments. Just do them when you really don't feel like doing it. Just get it done, and have this endurance mentality of like, I can do anything, I can endure anything, and I can continuously keep going, no matter what. I almost used to take exhaustion as when I used to get exhausted, I used to take it quite pridefully, and I used to be very proud of myself. I used to be very proud of myself that I was getting exhausted and I was getting burned out. This is what I don't recommend, because I liked that idea that I was exhausted and I was working hard and I was pushing myself, and it was this like whole hustle thing that I had going on. I was like trying to push myself, be more, growing constantly. I do still believe in that. However, I don't believe in just like working without being smart about it. I do think that there are things you can do. There are things you can outsource. There are things you unfortunately can't avoid in business. And there will always be tedious tasks that you feel like are pointless, but are actually very valuable in the grand scheme of things. And so, yes, you should be working hard. You should be pushing yourself as hard as you can, but that doesn't necessarily mean you should be working on things that are tedious and that carry nothing, because you can outsource this. And if you want to become better at working, more efficient, more effective, it's always good to work with people and be able to outsource the work. For example, if you do something like video editing, and filming a video takes you about 1 hour, but editing the video takes you about 3 days, maybe it's better for you to outsource the video if you can afford it, if it makes sense in your business model, just so that you can complete the task in a more effective way. Because yes, you can film and then you can edit, but then if you have to do other things on top of that, then you're not using your time effectively. And so look into ways at how you can maximize your time, but still keep that endurance going. And all that matters is that you are consistent. And so all of these things I had when I was 23, and these were really, really powerful things that I always feel like I started to kind of lose them as I got older. I always felt like I lost this openness that I had with people, with meeting people and talking about business and being excited about things. And I'll explain to you guys in a little bit as to why I feel like I lost it. I felt like I lost that openness, that positive high energy. It's quite hard to keep that positive high energy up whenever you're just meeting anyone. And it's also quite hard to keep up endurance when you just keep working on like tedious tasks instead of like outsourcing it, which is why I told you to make the most of your time and maximize it properly, because you don't want to keep having to like burn yourself out all the time. In fact, as you get older, burning yourself out is actually quite a silly state to be in. It's not the smartest state to get into, because you no longer enjoy your job. You no longer want to be working on those things that you should be working on, that you'd usually love working on, and you lose creativity. And I would say like imagination and creativity are so important when it comes to doing business. Imagination and creativity go hand in hand with being resourceful in business. And so you have to choose, like, where am I going to focus my energy at this right now, and where am I going to take my focus away from, because I don't need to focus on this specific thing right now. I can just outsource it. And I always felt like 4 of the reasons why I lost this, like all of those attributes that kept me making loads and loads of money when I was younger, was: 1 is when you have a business of your own, you realize that a lot of people make fake promises. They tell you one thing, they tell you that a deal's gonna go through, they say they love your product, they want to buy it, and then, you start talking to them, and then a month goes by, and then they still haven't bought from you, and then 2 months go by, and then they just keep you holding, and then the 3rd month they tell you, oh, sorry, actually, we're not gonna buy it. And you hear this a lot in business, and it was my job to do, for my kombucha business, it was my job to do sales. And so sales, you have to have a very thick skin, because even if people say yes today, it can be a no tomorrow. Even if people are saying like yes and super positive and absolutely, I love this product, I love the taste, I want to buy it for my restaurant, that can be a no an hour later. It's like, don't get so excited before you've signed a contract, before you have it in black and white, and before you've actually sent the product and received the money. Just don't get so excited about everything. And I felt like over time, after you do business for a long enough time, you start to see like how many people will tell you one thing and then realize that they just go, against their word, like depending on, I don't know, whenever, however later. And it's just human nature. It's no one to blame. It's not their fault for doing it. It's just that you hear a lot of things that could happen, and then you get excited about it, and then you sometimes get let down. And so you stop attaching yourself to the outcome that you want and you think is going to happen, and you just allow things to be. So you no longer get excited when it's a yes. You no longer actually even get excited when it's a no, because even a no can turn into a yes later. And so that was one thing that I always felt like sort of took away that positive high energy and that openness to doing business with. And so now whenever I hear, let's say, like a business opportunity, or when I want to go to an event, or when I want to network with other people, I'll always take things that they say with a pinch of salt. I'll never get super excited. Everyone's like, yeah, like, come join this business with me. We're going to make millions from it. And it just sounds so amazing. And you're just like, wow, this is such a great deal. This sounds like such an amazing thing that could happen. Usually 98% of the time, or 99% of the time, it's too good to be true. So always, and I've experienced this many, many different times. By the time I was 21, I'd already been in 3 multi-level marketing schemes, and they sell you the exact same thing. They sell you this dream of like, you can make money, passive income. You don't have to worry about a thing. You just need 50 people in your network. So you just have to get 50 people to buy under you and create this pyramid scheme where you're at the top, and everyone that buys, you get a percentage of it. And it's like, okay, but they don't explain to you how hard it actually is to get that network, and then how you might actually end up destroying a lot of your friendships with people because you are selling to them when they didn't really ask you to be sold to. And so after hearing a lot of these like business opportunities from people, these things that are too good to be true, you just lose sort of that enchantment with when people tell you nice things. You sort of take everything with a pinch of salt and you say, okay, we'll see how this actually turns out. I would also say lack of planning really killed a lot of the endurance I would have. I would start to see things like, I'm working, I used to work as a personal trainer, and I still work as a group fitness instructor, and I would realize that every time I work per hour, I'm only ever getting paid for the amount I'm working. And so if there's a moment where I can't work, I'm not going to get paid for that. So how can I make money outside of doing personal training, group fitness instructing, and doing all these other things? Then we created the kombucha business, which was we could sell stuff while we were sleeping. We could create the product and have people bank money into us, and then we'd send them the kombucha the next day. But we were actively selling while we were, doing our daily tasks. And this was a way of making money that we had, or that we created, so that we could make sort of like, it wasn't necessarily passive income because we still had to keep working on the business, but it was money that we could make without having to touch the business. As soon as we automated the process of making the kombucha and we could slowly step away from it and just make more sales, we could just sell to people and then have the kombucha made by our staff and all the workers in our factory, and then we could ship it out in a very seamless process. And that was a way of making money for ourselves, and it was a way of working smarter outside of the business model of working per hour. Because working per hour, as soon as you want to take a break, you're not getting paid for that amount of time. And so if you're only getting paid for the amount of time you're working, it's impossible to take a holiday if you want to stop earning. You can take a holiday, of course, but imagine if you want to take a month holiday, you're not getting paid for a month. So unless you have savings for that, for like another month extra, and you're going to eat into those. In fact, you're not only not getting paid for a month, you're not getting paid for almost 2 months. Because if on January 1st, I take a break, and then I only start working again on February 1st, I'm only going to get it paid at the end of February. So I'm going to take a break from January 1st all the way until the end of February before I even receive my first salary or my first check of whenever I was working. This is if you get paid monthly. And so that's a long time. You have to save up a lot of money for that, but it's not, I would say, the best way of working. And this was something that I learned about working smarter, because I've been working like that my entire life. I had been working like that my entire life, and I wanted to change something about that. And so that's why we built the kombucha business. And then later I did an e-commerce product making beach paddles, which I had so much fun doing. And then the last one was wasting time and energy. I used to waste a lot of time and energy focusing on just really silly things that I didn't need to focus on. For example, I had wanted to create an online product for the longest time. The longest time I was like, I want to do a business, I want to do my own thing, but I kept writing again and again and again and again and again, like what kind of product I would do, what I would do, and I kept planning. What would I do? How would I do it? What's the strategy here? What's the business model? How would I, all these different things. And I'm like, now I realize like I should have just started it and then just done it in the beginning, and then not worried about making everything so perfect. Making it perfect, yes, you should always try to optimize it, but you don't even know what it is yet. You can make the first product and people might not like it, but that doesn't mean they're gonna hate version number 2. That doesn't mean they're gonna hate version number 3. You can keep optimizing until you find out what people want, but you can begin selling immediately, as fast as possible. And I realize now that that is the most important part of business, is that just start selling. Like whatever it is that you're selling, whatever service that you have, that you're doing, or product that you have, just start selling as it is, like whatever it is, and then optimize it along the way. Put it up, create a landing page, make a product and put it up there. And if people don't buy it, you know, okay, I've got to optimize it. I got to optimize the price. I got to optimize the marketing. I got to optimize the way it looks, the thumbnail, all these things. I have to make it look appealing to people so that they actually pay money for the product or the service. And that all just comes down to you, but start selling immediately. That is one thing I learned, and I wish I knew this earlier, is just start selling immediately. Don't wait. Because ultimately you're going to really spend forever preparing. You are going to spend forever preparing for something, and you don't even know if the product that you're making, people are going to like it, because you're not actually thinking in this moment, you're not actually creating a product for other people. You are creating a product for you. And you have to know that, yes, you might want to buy it, but that doesn't mean other people want to buy it. This is a very harsh truth that you might actually learn in business, is people don't always want to buy the products that you think are awesome. People want to buy the products that they think are awesome. And you could sell to these people. You could sell to any person on planet Earth if you knew what they wanted, if you knew what they thought was cool, if you knew how much spending power they actually had for the product that you're creating. And then you can sell them whatever you want. And this is why data is so important. And so it comes down to working smart instead of working hard. However, working smart and working hard gone together, this creates a super, super, super concoction of success. Then the last thing I want to remind you guys is, so I just spent the entire time explaining to you what the first point of my life, when I was making the most money, and all the reasons why I felt like I lost that energy. But then came later a point in my life when I made the most money I ever made in my life. And that was when I was 28, about 2 years ago. And at this point in my life, I fell in love. And this is something that I always found really, really powerful, because I truly believe that provision doesn't always come from us. However, the intentions that we set for that provision certainly do come from us. And the actions that we take certainly come from us. But attaching ourselves to the outcome, don't do that, because nothing is guaranteed. You don't know what is going to happen, if it's going to be a good scenario, or the scenario that you want, or a better scenario, or a worse scenario. You have no idea. And so it was this point in time when I was in love, and I wanted to create a life with this girl that I was so in love with. I wanted to marry her. And I was so bent on just making more money so that I could buy a house, so that we could live the life that we wanted to live. And it was all on the sort of backbone of things that she told me she wanted. And I love that. I was like, sure, I can live with very little. It's I know I can make enough for myself to live comfortably in my own way. But for her, if she wants a house, if she wants to live in a certain place, if she wants to have a car, if she wants to have kids later, I want to give her a good life. And I want to give her the best that I feel like she deserves. And when I was so in love, it's you feel like you'll just do anything. And I sort of remember going back to all those feelings. I remember being, even though I was much older and much wiser when it came to business, when it came to dealing with people, I went back to being more open to opportunities. I went back to having a more positive energy when it came to talking or networking with clients and pushing the businesses that I had at the moment, at that time, in the right direction. Having openness, having a positive high energy, and having a lot of endurance. These were all the things I knew that I needed to make any business successful. And then obviously working hard and working smart. But all of these things I needed, and I went back to having those when I was in love, when I had this irrational feeling from within, and I wanted to give this girl that I was so in love with everything. I wanted to give her the best life ever. And I remember going back into this zone of fuck it, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to push my business forward. I will break necks. I will be ruthless when it comes to negotiating. I will push myself in the right direction so that I can give her the life that I wanted. I wanted to provide her the life that I wanted. And so I always look back on that moment in my life as wow, being in love is actually so powerful, because it does actually push you in a direction where it all stems irrationally from I don't know where it came from. I was just so in love with her. But it came from this place of really irrationally pushing me in the right direction, towards the right things, towards having a high energy and enduring whatever I had to endure in order to accomplish the goals that I wanted to accomplish. And so that's the last thing I wanted to leave it with. This happened when I was 28. And so if there's one thing I want to leave with you guys, is if you ever want to make the most money you've ever made, from my own experiences, have an open mind to networking with people, to going to new events, to new opportunities, to new things. Obviously, take things with a pinch of salt. Don't listen to things that sound too good to be true, because usually they aren't. However, don't let that stop you from listening and going into spaces where you're going to listen to the right things. Then have a high positive energy, a positive high energy, sorry. A positive high energy when it comes to doing anything in your life. Yes, you will have setbacks. Yes, you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to have resistance to doing whatever you're doing in your life. Maintain that positive high energy all the time. And that sort of goes hand in hand with being open as well. Then be ready to work your ass off and be ready to endure difficult things. Moments when you feel like you don't want to do anything. You want to sit at home and eat like McDonald's in your bed and just chill and do nothing. Maybe not McDonald's, maybe something else, but anything. You want to eat junk food and you just want to chill and watch movies and not have to do a single thing. No, like now is the time to work. Now is the time to endure. Now is the time to push yourself in the right direction. And if you can maintain that endurance, even just for like 6 months, and you can set something up that's good and healthy and that can really take you into another sort of dimension of work that's fulfilling, that's you, that's positive, high energy, that's fulfilling, do it. Take control now and just endure it. And then the last one is learn how to fall in love. Learn how to love so that it does actually turn you into a better person. If you say to yourself that if I'm going to find the love of my life, if I'm going to look for a partner who I know will hold me accountable, make me better, give me a good life, take care of me, I also need to be very, very good. And if I love them genuinely, I need to be the best version of myself for them, which is what I told myself when I was 28 all the time. I wanted to be the best version of myself. I hope this helps you become the best version of yourself. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.